What's up, guys? So as I said, I've been streaming this week. You can find the details for that down below, but basically King Fabs the First at Twitch TV. This is just a little bit of a guide into my current Darklord build. Sorry about the audio quality. I didn't have a mic stand before, but as you can tell now, I do have one, so you're not hearing all that thudding and stuff in the background anymore. But anyway, yeah, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help out my channel, and you're gonna love this. I've got so much information for you in this profile. I'll talk to you all soon. Peace. My build. This is the build I've been rocking with for Darklords for a while now. And well, I say for a while, I only finalized it properly today, but I've been slowly working up to this. And basically, the thing I realized about Darklords is that they're a lot stronger than they seem, but I feel like a lot of people build them very wrong. They build them with the focus on being this intense combo deck, but time and time again, I just come to realize that the two strongest parts of Darklords are the traps. They have some of the most powerful traps in the game. I mean, non-targeted negation, and also gains LP. A fusion. This trap is, I used to think it was so terrible, but it's actually not. It's pretty sick. And then they've got non-target addition, and they've got mind control that doesn't target as well. I mean, these four traps are insane. And then the second really strong thing about Darklords is actually this fusion monster. So when he came out, I thought he was a bit awkward and stuff, but I understand, even though Konami could have made this deck busted if they want to, I understand why his cost is so high. Because he's just so versatile. He has so many good, there's so many good targets for him. Like, I mean, not targets, no, targets is the wrong word. There's so many good situations to use him in. And you can just win games outright. And this is the perfect kind of meta. So this is kind of a meta similar to when I first picked up Darklords, which was like Orca Sky Strike format. And these grindy kind of slight floodgate formats, these are the formats where Darklords really excel, because in the grind game they are really strong, but they've got a higher ceiling than most grind decks. Now the way they're punished is they're quite xenophobic, but you can get around that in loads of different ways, because even they're xenophobic, and what I mean by xenophobic is they only really like fairies. But it's like, even that kind of limitation, it's not as bad as some other decks which only like their own archetype. No, Darklords, if you're playing with fairies, they're quite busted. So Glusa, cards like Lancia, cards like Trickstars, they're still good just because they're fairies. And I really do think Darklords can compete against most rogue decks. You'll stomp if you know what you're doing, and against meta decks you have a really good chance. So here's the theory behind what I've done with this build. So to start off with, go with the Darklord cards. Now, this I got from much better players than me, but one of the things you need to realize is that all your Darklord cards, for the most part, big mages, are bad. You don't want to be bad. You don't want to be playing more than you need, but you do need them in the deck because they are your utilities. I play one Amdusk. Amdusk is probably the best out of all of them. If I was going to play any of them nowadays at more than one, it'd be Amdusk, because the ability to retrieve any Darklord card from the grave is insane. And you'll see me time and time again use it to retrieve traps and stuff from the grave, because it's just so good. Then you've got the one Naston. He's bad most of the time because he can be negated, but if he doesn't get negated, he can really set up your field. If you saw the game I just played now, I know I kind of cancelled the stream in the middle because I was having some tech issues, but if you saw apps, and then I have a disruption, I have a good body on field, and I have a disruption straight away, my opponent has to respond to it, and then they try to respond to my Naston, but I just chained the disruption anyway. He's sick. So he's a really good card, but it's like high risk, high reward. You need to make sure you're going to resolve him. If my opponent had a strike, for example, it would have been game there. Nurgle, a lot of people hate on Nurgle, but I think Nurgle's great with Morningstar. He's what facilitates your OTKs. Nurgle plus Capricious plus Morningstar is what allows you to OTK through most boards, because Nurgle gives your fairies piercing. It's not just Darklords, it's any fairy gets piercing. So if you have a Pollution on the build field, that has piercing too. And then your Capricious with the Nurgle means that you're going to be reducing their attack easy, and Morningstar means you can shoot him from the deck. Now, you don't really want to be summoning him, you don't really want to be getting him in your hand. You really want him to stay in the deck off Morningstar, but when I resolve Morningstar, he's usually the one I'm going to be bringing out. And then one Superbia. I used to play more than one Superbia. Basically, unless you're doing a trade-in build, I wouldn't advise playing more than one. It's just too much risk bricking. You can't afford to brick. In this meta, you need 1 to 2 hand traps in your hand, and then the rest of your cards can be starters. You can't afford to have 2 or 3 Superbias clogging up your hand, yeah. Then Ukabak. Ukabak is probably, after Amdusk, again my next best, because he's the only other way of getting access to your other really valuable Darklord spells and traps, because he can send any Darklord card from the deck to the graveyard. So he's he's really good too. Morningstar obviously can send, but Morningstar needs to be tributed first. Ukobak, as soon as he's normal specialty, just sends. If he wasn't hard once per turn, he would be so busted. But yeah. Moving on, then we have the good Dark Lords. So we have the best Dark Lords. Oh, and the one Capricious. Capricious is a really good card just because she outs threats. There's lots of threats, like even now, for example, Vanity's Fiend isn't as big of a worry for me in this deck because I have so many ways about it. I've got Imperm, then I've also got Trickstar package. Trickstar, crash into it for Korobane. Then I've got Capricious, who, when she goes to the graveyard, she's going to reduce its attack. So, and Vanity's Fiend is a fairy. Do you get it? Every fairy makes it lose attack. So that's what makes Capricious so good. I mean, she just helps you out threats that you wouldn't normally be able to out. And her kind of, it's not removal at all, but her disruption, most cards will be affected by it. Something like a Dragoon will be affected by it. They're going to lose attack, and so a lot of the time they'll have to negate it. And then her summon effect is also really good. Basically gives you another free normal summon of your big Dark Lords, which is really good. I really wish that her effect just said you can normal summon one fairy, because that would be so much better. But I understand why it says tribute summon. But yeah, if you also want to play Christie, she's good. You can play her with Dark Lord, is it Asmodeus, I think, for turboing out Christie. I might do a build on that in the future. But yeah, and then we play the one Morningstar obviously as well. He's your boss monster. Really not a lot to say about him. He just tutors so many from the deck, and he's your win condition. He's your kind of primary win condition, and this is your secondary win condition. The reason why I say that is because more often than not, I'm going to be summoning him and Boral Swording. Even though I haven't put Boral Sword for some reason. I put Access Code instead of Boral Sword. But yeah, more often than not, you're going to be using him to Boral Sword for game than you are going to be using this. But if you do manage to resolve first Dark Lord, that's also going to win you the game. But anyway, yeah. So, as for the good Dark Lords, play 3 Indulged and 3 Ixchel. Indulged is okay. I don't like normal summoning her though. Most of the time you'll see I'll try and dump her to the graveyard instead of normal summoning her, because she's just not worth it. Two problems with her effects is that she's going to lock you into fairies, which I don't want because I play things like Gamma and stuff, and also because I want access to match deck. And the second problem is that she isn't really gaining you relevant advantage. She adds a card to your hand, great, but she's taking your normal summon, so you can't normal summon that card, so you need another card with her. Most of the time I'd rather dump her to the grave with an Ixchel. So like, she's the second best Ixchel target, because you want to dump her to the grave with Ixchel and then use a contact, summon Ixchel, Ixchel summons her. Now you've got 2 cards on the field and you can play it, and you haven't used normal summon. So that's like a really good combo. So like, Ixchel plus her plus another card is an easy way to get your Morningstar on board. Then obviously Dark Lord spells and traps, like I said, the traps you play 1 of each. The reason why you don't play 2 is because they're all hard once per turn on field, so it's just not worth it. And if you need them, you can get access to them quite easily. And then you play these ones at max, contact and management at max, because they are really good. But let's go into the text I play. So you can see there's a lot of hand traps, and look, one thing you'll find is that, especially if you want to play against meta, you just have to play a lot of hand traps. You have to find a way. You have to cut everything you can to play hand traps, because that's what you'll. When you see the top tier players play, a lot of the times it's about their simplified game states. They'll just be kind of cutting each other until one player manages to break through with a little bit of advantage. Then they can use their engine, and that's why those small compact engines tend to be the strongest decks, because if you can play off just 1-2 cards, that means the rest of your deck can be hand traps and stop the other person from playing. So my text, 1 grave, it's busted, you need to play it. 1 Feather Duster, it's busted, you need to play it. I like Light Stage as well. Light Stage plus Feather Duster gives me a lot of back row removal in my main that doesn't really take up a lot of space. So even if I end up against an Altergeist or an Eldritch game 1, I'm not going to be screwed with removal, and I've back row removal. It has a lot of draw power as well. Play the 1 Ream is very, very useful in this deck. I mean, you get more value off most people because you're going to revive a Superbia probably, which is going to revive something else, which if you have a contact is going to revive something else. So that's why Reborn is really good, and I do think it's worth it. If you don't play Reborn, you can play Succession instead, but I do think Reborn's staple in this deck. Upstart, you need to take the deck down to 39 cards. Then for hand traps, so there's lots of different philosophies in terms of hand traps and how you do it, but me personally, I like running 2 of hand traps unless it's a critical card that I need to see that specific hand trap in every matchup. So for example, last format, in that Dragon Link whatever format, I would have run 3 Nibiru, because I always want to see Nibiru in almost all the best decks, Infernoble, Adamantipator, blah blah. I want to see Nibiru. But in this format, Ash is good against most of the decks, but not all the decks. DD Crow is against most of the decks, or not all the decks. Gamma, you have to play at 3 because it's just not worth playing 2 Gamma 1 Driver. Imperm, again, the same thing. And so because like all of these, I want to see multiple. I want to see like an Ash and an Imperm or DD Crow and a Gamma. I don't want to see 2 Ashes, for example. That's a brick basically. You've got a card that you can't use, and a lot of the times you're not going to get the opportunity to wait for the next turn to use the Ash, which is why I like playing 2s of my hand traps. So as you can see, I'm playing the 2 Ash because it's great this format. It just hits everything. I would like to play Draw, but the main problem is there are a few decks this format. Virtual is probably the best example of Draw is great if they don't have a good hand already, but if they have an okay hand already, it won't do much. So that's why Ash I like, because Ash can stop the search instantly. It's not going to stop the turn, like against Drytron, they're just going to play through it. Against Inferno, they will play through it, but if you have an Ash and a DD Crow or an Ash and a Gamma, harder for them to play through that. Then I like DD Crow. Like I said, DD Crow is really good, mainly because of Drytron. DD Crow is a weird one. It's a very low impact hand trap, but then when it's high impact, it is very high impact. So it's like almost as good as Draw sometimes, but not. And the reason you need that is because if you don't run it, what's going to happen is Drytron is going to wreck your field. They're going to wreck your field, or Virtual World is going to keep bringing back Shen and wreck your entire life. In Perm, it's not as good this format, I'll be honest. You could actually swap this out for talents. You can swap this out for Lancey's. Lancey's main deck is not bad this format. You can swap it out for Ghost Bow or Skullmeister. But I do like Imperm, and the reason why I'm running Imperm personally is mainly because against Rogue, it's king. Against Rogue, it's second only to Ash, to be honest, which is why I run it. So it's more for that kind of support against Rogue. And then Gamma. Gamma's just the best hand trap this format, and this deck is really good at drawing with your eggshells. You don't want your eggshell to be negated, you don't want your Nassim to be negated, you don't want your Amdust to be negated, and so because of that, you don't want your contact and your banishment to be negated. And because of all of that, that's why Gamma is good in this deck, because there's just so many opportunities to use it. If I had space, probably, I might try and add a Lambda, just because it's very often that I have a Gamma in my hand that I can't use, but I just don't have space to dedicate. Like every card in my extra deck, I do need it. I mean, this has turned into a bit of a deck brief. I was meant to just be a little bit of a discussion before I go into the actual gameplay, but whatever, I'll carry on. But yeah, in terms of the extra deck, so my goal, like I said, I have 2 win conditions. It's resolve Morningstar for game, just the pluses off Morningstar is usually game, or resolve first Darklord for game. Those are my 2 win conditions. So that's what my extra deck is dedicated to get me out. So the Trickstar package, I didn't explain that. So the Trickstar package, I don't know, you guys, everyone should know this by now, but it's your 1 Light Stage, your 1 Canino, your 1 Corobane, and it's really good because it's basically brickless. You can draw anything in this package and you're not in a bad position. If you draw the Corobane, not trouble, it's just a free body. If you draw the Light Stage or the Candina, they search each other, and then the other one will search Corobane. So that's why it's so good, and then use those 2 to go into Condemned Darklord. That's why I really like this package. I like brickless engine like this, where it's like, I don't care what I draw. It basically minimizes the amount of bricks. So in my deck, for example, there's only 2 cards in this whole deck that it's like, actually no, let me stretch more. There's like 5 cards in this whole deck. I would say that's like, it's terrible if I draw them. 1 is Driver, and then it's my Darklord traps. But even my Darklord traps, they're not terrible if I draw them, they're just not ideal. Because if I draw them and I have other Darklord cards, I can still extend. It's just that I don't want to draw them on their own. Every other card is a high value card by itself. Your Darklord cards obviously are kind of bricks, but because they work with each other, I'm not counting them. You need them, they're requirements for your engine. Then moving on to the extra deck, yeah, it's really just about facilitating those win conditions. So we do have the 1 Omega as well, by the way. I think Omega is just useful because I'm going to be resolving Gamma a lot on my turn. And that's Boral Sword for 80k, your Nightmare package, your Condemned. You're going to be going into this a lot because this is what you want to do. Get Condemned out, get Morningstar, or get Indulge, or get Eggshell to your hand, and then combo off from there. We have the 1 Zeus because you do go into XYZs really easily. I've started playing Abyss Dweller. I haven't actually managed to bring it out yet, but before I started playing, I felt like I always had 2 level 4s on board, and Abyss Dweller is a great card. So I thought, you know what, let me just try and find a way to force it into my extra deck, because if I do have 2 level 4s on board, if I steal one, for example, Abyss Dweller is so good against certain decks like Dinos, for example. They just lose. Then you've got the 1 Sheridan busted card in this deck, Dingear, and you've got the Zeus. You have to play Zeus this format. It's such a good card. It's such a good card. And especially because you're going to be attacking after using these as well. But anyway, yeah, let's get into some games. So yeah, I just had a game for watching again. I've got the game that I played with this deck coming up tomorrow. It's part of the same stream, so make sure you watch it. It was an insane game against Muskets, and it really showed how you play Dark Lords when you're playing against a control deck. So you definitely want to watch that. Don't miss out. You've got to subscribe so you don't miss out on this great content. Thank you all for watching, guys. I'll talk to you all later. Peace.